Alright, welcome back to how to build an F-14 Tomcat. I unfortunately have taken a little bit longer to get to this video than I expected. My wife had to make a trip to the hospital last week, so that kind of took precedence over everything. But back at it for this weekend. I'm leaving to go out of town once again for work. So, but anyways, last video I said I would show you guys how to go about forming lithoplate over curves and some other oddball sources and areas. I've already done one wing. On the right wing panel, you can see here I've got the tip panels put on, both the top and the bottom, and they conform around the curve of the tip really well. And I also went ahead and did the panel here at the root of it, where it actually goes inside the fuselage, and that again is conformed to where it fits nice and tight around the curvature of this portion. So the right wing panel is about 95% of the way done. I've got two panels here to do. This panel right above the pivot point, and then the forward portion around the curve, and then I've got the formation and nav light panels to do. And for the spoilers, I'll actually, for that portion, I'll probably just build up either a clay dam to use as a parting point on the mold, or I'll just cover that with monocoat and just use that as the mold surface. That way I don't have to make another set of litho panels and all that, because all this is going to be cut out once the wings are joined, the wing halves are joined in the molds anyway. So that's the right wing panel. In one of the previous videos I showed you how to anneal the lithoplate. I've already gone ahead and done that with these. You can probably tell a little bit with this one, just the discoloration line right through here. The only reason I did it halfway on this one is because it's really just the outside edge that you're going to be forming to fit the curvature, so you don't have to do the exact same thing. So you don't have to do the entire piece. Here on the that bullnose portion at the root of the wing, again I just ran the torch and annealed it right about here to the forward portion, and you can see how it's kind of taking a little bit of a wrinkle to it. That's just what the heat did to it on its own. Alright, so once you, I showed in the previous video, I put all this down with some body filler. I've since sanded it down to where it gets rid of the rough texture of the fiberglass. It's really nice and smooth. I think I sanded it with some 150 grit on a little orbital sander. So it's nice and smooth, that way you don't have to worry about the cloth weave popping through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bottom panel in place, and you do just like you would if you're covering an airplane with monocoat or whatnot. You start at the bottom, then you do the top. It doesn't really matter, but keep things consistent. Then just take a piece of tape with the panel here lined up and just tape the panel into position. And then my wallpaper roller, you know, it's got blue, it's just 3-inch masking tape put on it, and then I cut it off. I actually did this to kind of use like a peel away strip, so if any contact adhesive gets on it from gluing the panels down, I can just peel the tape off, cut it, and then keep working. I don't have to worry about it too much. So what you're going to do is, you got your panel taped in place, take your roller and start in the middle and just roll towards the tip, from the edge of the panel towards the tip, and you'll see it puts a nice little, it just kind of follows the curvature around it, and go to the forward portion of it, then to the rear portion. And you see it actually does a pretty good job of just getting the shape to it the way it is. You can see if you push it down here, it's a little springy here at the front. Just means you got a little bit more work to do to it. So then what I'm going to do is, you're going to take fingers, put one at the tip, one in the middle, and one at the up here at the forward portion of it, and just take your roller and just roll down the length of the tip of it. You almost need 3 sets of hands to do this. And as I'm working it, I'm just gonna kind of move the roller around the tip of it as well. These are cut slightly oversized so they go past the center line of the tip. The reason I do that is that way you can wrap this bottom one around it, and it helps you. It kind of acts like a third hand while you make the panel. That way it holds the back portion in place. You can see here now, this is really nice and tight. This is a little springy here at the front still, just because it's cut just slightly too short to fit, to actually like wrap around the tip. So with it like that, you don't have to worry about holding this tip portion anymore, because it does it itself. You just keep working it until it gets the right shape and the curvature to it. Now some of the larger panels that have like a really complex curve or concave or convex, whatever they call it, 2 curves in different directions, sometimes you'll have to anneal those 2 or 3 or 4 different times to even get it to form right. So here you see the front's still a little springy, but not too bad. That's actually good enough. The contact adhesive strong enough to where it'll actually hold that down. Just holding that. I'm gonna keep working it a little bit. And that's pretty much the bottom panel that's formed into place. As I tip it over here, you can see it carries the shape of it really nice. Again, there's a couple areas that mostly up here at the front that aren't really tight fitting, but again, the contact adhesive will hold that. Then the next thing you want to do is here at the trailing edge portion, just take a pair of scissors and just snip it. And that's the bottom panel. With this plate being annealed, you gotta be really careful peeling this up, because you can actually bend the panel in half even with the non-annealed portion. So there's one panel. We'll flip it over, and then we'll take the other panel and we'll essentially do exactly the exact same thing. This stuff takes a little bit of a lot of patience to kind of figure out how to work with really well. Still don't consider myself anywhere close to advanced techniques with it. There are some guys that can make, like those antenna fairings that I have on the horizontal stab, they can make those in one piece of this stuff. And how they do it, I have no idea. They just say it takes a lot of patience and a lot of wasted material. So it's amazing what you can do with this stuff. You just gotta have the know-how and the patience to do it. And a lot of the guys said that they made a lot of forming tools out of rubber and different pieces of wood and whatnot to actually do that stuff. And sometimes they say you spend more making the tools than you do making the usable panel. So there's the top panel is in place. And you can see how it kind of overruns. Nice little edge there on the top. So now I got both panels formed in place. I'm going to replace the bottom one and just put a smaller piece of tape to hold it into position. Then I'm going to take a Sharpie marker and I'm just going to trace down the center line of the wingtip. And what this is for, this is actually where I'm going to trim this panel. That way it goes right down the center of the tip here. And again, you don't have to be precise, because the panel we just formed that's on the top will actually overlap this one just a little bit. So again, taking the scissors, just going to trim right down that line I just drew. And since they're going to overlap, I don't want to trim the line completely away. I'm going to trim to the portion that would be closest to the top of the wing panel. There's the panel trimmed. I'll put it back into position and tape it back into place. And you can see how it runs just about dead down the center of the tip here. So now we got the bottom one trimmed, we'll take the top one, we'll put it into position again. This time I'm actually making sure they line up here at the tip. I should have did that before I formed the top one, but it's pretty dang close. So there's that. I'm going to take this one into position, and then what I'm going to do is the bottom one, we're going to fold it out of the way, put the top one down, and then overlap the bottom one onto it. It's not going to fit completely like this because the top one's a little bit longer, so you can just kind of fold the edge that are interfering around the tip until it fits a little tighter. And then using that bottom panel as a trace line, just take the Sharpie marker and run down the top panel, drawing a line on it. Again, we want the top panel to overlap the bottom one, so we're not going to cut this line completely away. There was a little gap at the bottom one from sitting completely flush with the tip anyway, so that'll keep it from butting up against them. On the vertical and horizontal stabs, I actually cut these panels to where they butted up against it, and it required you to put a little bit of body filler in there. And the reason why I don't do it that way anymore is because since the parting line for the parts is going to go right down that center of the tip anyway, because that's where the widest portion of it is, all you're doing is just creating a little bit more work. By having this little overlap from the top panel over the bottom panel, it's actually going to disappear in the parting line anyway. So instead of leaving a small gap from them butt jointed and having to fill it with body filler, just let them overlap a little bit, and then you don't have to worry about doing more filling and more sanding. It just saves yourself a little bit of work. Now I'm just going to cut on the outside of that line I drew, so you get rid of the extra. And again, these are just telephone lineman scissors. They work fairly well because of their size. But if you got anything that's the same roundabout size, they'll work just as well, or you can use full-size scissors. It's just a little harder getting smaller parts cut. Then to check the fit, I just put it back in place. Tape it, we'll put the bottom one down, flush with its surface, the top one, overlapping the joint, and just use your finger, you can run around here to get the fit just right. So essentially, there you have it. Two panels on the wingtip, slightly overlapping there at the parting line, and a nice tight fit to the whole thing. So pull these off because they are now done. You want to be very careful with how you handle them, because again, the annealed portion is a little harder from before before you started working it. Just the working portion process hardens them a little bit, but not a lot. So you just gotta be they're a little delicate, which actually works out well in your favor, because if you do get glue, any of the glue on your roller, and it puts little dents in it. If you clean the glue off the roller, or you have a spare clean roller, you can actually run right back over it and it'll eliminate a lot of those dents. So for preparing to glue these on, to save yourself a little bit of cleaning in the future, just take some masking tape, put it right up against the edge of the panel that you're going to be gluing it against. I like to leave just a little bit of the panel exposed, like maybe a couple of thousandths of an inch, just so you don't overlap the panel on top of it and you get a good bead of glue right there at the joint. And since the formation and nav lights are probably going to be filled with body filler, and then the panel lines engraved for the frames into the body filler, will tape off that portion as well. And again, we'll start with the bottom of the wing to install these panels. Our approach plate book here that we'll use as scrap. Make sure I got the right one. I do. And again, if you decide to try this process out, make sure you have a lot of panels made before you glue them down, because you waste a lot of brushes in the process gluing these things on. The reason why I'm just going to glue these two on now is because I've already used this brush. The contact adhesive does weaken the glue that's already on there a little bit, but they're still pretty stiff. Now I'm just going to make sure I get glue wrapped around to the top portion of it as well. And we'll let that sit for just a minute. While I wasn't able to do any physical work to the F-14 last week, I was able to get some work done on SolidWorks on the cockpit. So I've got the pilot's instrument panel drawn up in SolidWorks, and I've got the Rio's cockpit in the back. It's probably about a quarter of the way done, and I've also got the cockpit tub dimensions and the actual tub itself drawn up as well. So I did get some stuff done, just nothing that's getting me any closer to actually being able to mold this thing. So now that that's dried for a little bit, put it in place, roll it down. You'll notice I'm rolling the flat part first, and then just work your way around the tip. Then here at the trailing edge, take the portion here that extends out from where you rolled it over, put that in place first. And then you can take the bottom portion and fold it over the top, or over the back of it. This is why I said take the masking tape and put it over the roller. I wish I would have thought of this a long time ago. Alright, so there's the bottom one glued in. There's that. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a piece of tape and put it along the length of the tip of the that piece we just put on. Again, just to keep a little bit of glue off of it. Alright, so there's that piece of tape. See how it runs right down the center. So again, we'll get our glue and we'll go about gluing the top piece on. With it nice and smooth, you don't have to put quite as thick of coat of this contact adhesive on to get it to stick when it's rough, or when the actual plug is rough. You actually got to fill in the low spots with the glue. So if you do it, make sure you sand the whole surface smooth, maybe put a coat of primer on or something. It's one of those things where, looking back on it, I wish I would have done it, because it would have made my life a lot easier. Because there's a few panels around the airplane that actually beginning to lift off from when I was using a different contact adhesive. So I've actually got to go around and wick some CA or pull the panel off and re-glue it in position, or even replace it. So again, we got glue there. We'll let those sit for just a minute. Here's one of those areas that I was talking about where it's peeling up actually. And what the can tells you is when you put your finger there, it should peel up just like that when it's ready to be put on, which isn't a very long time with this stuff. Now the top panel's in place. We'll take the trailing edge and again just bend that over. As we peel that tape off, you'll see it pulls a nice little bit of glue with it as well. And to clean what little glue is left, just take a paper towel, just a little dab of acetone while it's still slightly cured or slightly wet, and just run along the joints of it. Again, this is one of those little tricks I just kind of learned from trial and error working with the stuff. Would have been nice if I'd had somebody that had done it before to help out, but if you don't try it, you'll never figure it out. Alright, so there's a completed wingtip. So that's it's basically how you can form it over that small of an area. I believe the time may be getting a little long, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop with this video, but I'm gonna make up another one here in a few moments showing you guys how about going through doing areas like this where it's got a little bit more curvature to it, and it's not as pronounced on that wing, but on this one you can see not only does it curve here, but it also stops short a little bit, and there's a little notch in there where the actual wing pops through. So I'll show you guys how to do that stuff on the next video. So for now, I'm gonna stop this one, go get some lunch, relax for a few minutes, come back out, and hit this panel up here. My goal for this weekend is to get these wing panels done and to finish up the beaver tail and the fuselage. Once that's done, everything is ready to mold minus the cockpit portion of the fuselage, and even it will be ready to mold. It's just got to be molded first so I can make plugs for the clear canopy and the windscreen, and then I can detail both of those portions and the fuselage will be ready to mold. So as of right now, it's looking fairly promising to where I can have everything ready to be molded by the end of the month. Since I have to leave for 6 weeks and 3 weeks, it'll be a while before everything gets molded. I'm going to try and get the canopy and the windscreen molded before I leave for that amount of time. That way I can possibly get the plugs for those made as well and send those off to the vacuum form guy so he can look at those and possibly pop out a canopy or two. So for now, you guys have a good Saturday afternoon, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.